Let me know when ready. Okay. Welcome everybody to Forum. We're very fortunate to have Lt.Ty Engstrom from Portland Police Bureau with us today. I wanted to share a little bit about how I have a connection to Ty. There are problem solver groups for different areas of the city that meet to talk about livability. These are residents, business owners, social service providers, the Portland city government agencies that are related, and the police. Ty has been the liaison for the police bureau to read neighborhood associations home solvers group. We meet once a month on Zoom. He did come and lead us through a walk through the area and talk about some of the challenges. And I've been really touched by his balanced way of engaging with very complex topics. And with business owners who are frustrated, residents who are worried, houseless folks who are also having challenges, and having to navigate that and the law. And so he's just, I think it's a very challenging role to be in, and I've appreciated the way he's engaged with that and spoken with us and split things to us. And so I'm delighted to have you here with us today. And I'll hand it
All right. Thank you very much, Sean. I said I wasn't going to use this, but I'll take it anyway, because I want to be able to take some notes on topics that you guys want me to cover, and so that I can take some of that back to my office and better serve you in your community. So I'm going to start out by giving a little bit of background, who I am, how I came to be in this role, and then go into what my job is, what I'm responsible for, and then some of the concerns around your neighborhood here, and then what we're doing about that. And then I'll take questions and things like that, and we'll have a good discussion, okay? So again, my name is Ty Engstrom. I grew up in Northern California, and my family is kind of this is the family business per se. My dad was in law enforcement for 37 years. I grew up pretty much in the police department. He was kind of Andy of Mayberry. I know that. Sometimes when I share that, these younger generation, they're like, who's Andy of Mayberry? You know, I think I've got you here on that topic. So I grew up in the police department, and of the 7 kids in my family, 4 of us ended up in law enforcement at one time or another, and 3 of us ended up as Portland police officers here. Wow. So my oldest brother recently retired from Portland, and now he's the police chief in Silverton, down near Salem area. And then my youngest brother is still with me in Portland. He's one of our full-time traffic officers on a motorcycle, which is where I've spent a lot of my career. I've been here for 21 and a half years with Portland Police Bureau, and probably about 14 or 15 years of that time has been in the traffic division. So that's where a lot of my experience is, you know, special events. We just recently had the marathon that runs right through your neighborhood here. And so I was in charge of that for a number of years. And I spent about 9 years or so as an officer, another 12 years as a sergeant. And now in January, I took a promotion and I'm the lieutenant at Central Precinct on day shift. Wow. So what does that mean? So a lieutenant's job is to take care of the sergeants and the officers on the crew. So I'm in charge of all patrol response, our neighborhood response team, and our full-time bicycle officers for all of day shift in Central Precinct. Central Precinct is anything on the other side of the river, plus anything south of I-84 and all the way out to Cesar Chavez. So you guys are part of Central Precinct here, and it goes all the way down to the county line by Johnson Creek. So I have, it's about 42 square miles, and I'm responsible for our day shift folks. And then our neighborhood response team, their job is to kind of bridge the gap between patrol response that goes out on the 911 calls and our detective division. So detectives can't take every case on. We just have so many thousands and thousands of cases every year. We go on nearly 300,000 911 calls every year. We're already up to about 275 or something like that. So we're going to go well over 300,000 911 calls this year. And so detectives can't take on all of those, and officers need to get to the next call. So we have a neighborhood response team that will often do some follow-up, do neighborhood livability issues, work on some long-term cases to try and make arrests and solve problems, things like that. And they work hand in hand with our full-time bicycle team, which not every precinct has. We're lucky to have that, and they mostly focus downtown, but we do spread them out and do some missions here and there around this area. I do still participate in the traffic division. They don't have enough motorcycle operators, so every once in a while they let me come out and play. So I got to ride a motorcycle during the marathon there and help out in that way. And then my other hat that I wear is I'm also a SWAT team commander. So when the SWAT team gets called out, we call them our CERT team. When they go to a dangerous situation, hostage situation, barricaded armed subject, things like that, then I go there to help supervise that response. So those are my responsibilities. Lots of different hats to wear. Sean mentioned these PMO meetings that we attend. PMO, oh boy, can't remember all the acronym stands for. It's a city organization. They're kind of a receptacle of all the different livability issues that pop up. And they help make sure the right city organization is dealing with the problem. It's been really helpful for us because historically, sometimes things just get dumped on the police. Let's just do it. But not everything is really a criminal justice matter. And so we have lots of other partners within the city, like city government, as well as social work partners that can help us with all these different problems and concerns that we're facing. And so we go to these meetings and we bring up, whether it's illegal camping, graffiti, garbage, or open air drug use, drug dealing, things like that. Stuff that really impacts your community, whether it's you're a business owner or a resident or somebody who just passes through this area on a regular basis as part of your commute. So that's where I've seen Sean at some of those meetings. And I think we have a meeting maybe every other week you're part of what we consider the Inner Southeast group, but you're also part of the Sellwood group. So we have a bi-monthly or bi-weekly meeting to discuss those topics. So I wanted to cover a couple of things that are hitting our neighborhood right now that people often have some questions about. Illegal camping is probably one of the biggest ones because that also involves, not always, but oftentimes, open air drug use and dealing. Open air meaning it's right out there. It's on the street and they're using or dealing. And oftentimes those camps are also areas where people will either go to hide after they've done some sort of crime, whether it's theft or something like that, or often in those camps we find illegal stolen property, stolen bicycles, illegal, stolen cars, things like that. So we work hand in hand with PMO and with the Portland or Impact Reduction Program, which are the ones who come help clean up some of those camps. And PBOT, Portland Bureau of Transportation, who helps to take care of the illegal parking stuff. When you have, like, just right over here on 26th, I just drove down it to see what it looked like on the way over here. I saw at least one RV parked over there just south of Steele. And so they take care of doing those abatements and cleanups. And then we help with them with that also. One of the top topics at these meetings, or that people bring up to me on a daily basis, is this illegal camping and what's going to be done about it. Some of you may or may not be familiar with the mayor's goals to end on-street and public property camping, but I wanted to kind of lay out what his plan is. We have done some studies in other cities of similar size that have similar problems and have seen that when there is an excess, a big excess of available overnight shelter beds, it creates a better opportunity for the city to make a positive impact on illegal camping. So what that means is the mayor has opened up several new shelters. There's one popping up almost every month, a new one. And the goal is to have so many open beds that there is absolutely no reason to be sleeping on the street. And when that takes place, then that gives us the ability to effect arrests if we need to, and actually enforce the illegal camping statutes. So Portland has 2 city codes that have recently been enacted that help us on this front. And we haven't been able to enforce them really because there's not enough shelter beds. So one of those city codes says that it's illegal to camp on any public right-of-way or public property. So that means parks, sidewalks, streets, open vacant lots that are owned or managed by the city, all that stuff. It is illegal to camp on those spots. It is also illegal, the second code, it's illegal to camp when there's available overnight shelter beds. And so those two city codes, we have not been able to enforce until we get all those beds ready. Does that make sense? So the goal has been November 1st to start enforcing the illegal camping statutes. Now, you have different levels of crimes. You got felony crimes, those are the really big ones, the robberies and the murders and the severe assaults, things like that. And then you have lower level crimes, which are called misdemeanors. And these type of violations of city code are considered misdemeanors, meaning they can go to jail, but usually they get a ticket with a court date. You need to go talk to the judge. Here's your charges. You might get a fine, whatever. Community service, the judge can do what they decide. But then if they don't go to their court date, then they get issued a warrant, which means when we contact them, they're going to jail for sure. So the ability for us to enforce illegal camping gives us some extra tools. Because right now, since we can't enforce that, when we get a phone call to go deal with this big camp, it means we go with the cleanup crew, they post it, they get 72-hour notice. This is an illegal site. Now they stay there for 3 more days. And when it's time to go clean it up, we basically say, grab your things and move along. And there is no enforcement that goes along with it. Or we go talk to them at the beginning of the 72 hours and say, hey, could you move? It's causing a problem. And sometimes they're cooperative and they grab their stuff and they move along and clean up the camp. But now, when we can actually enforce it, then we can go in there, we can contact everybody. They have to give us their names. We can run them to see if they have warrants. If we develop probable cause that some other crime is going on, we see stolen bikes, we see drug paraphernalia, different things that lead us to believe some crimes are being committed, we can investigate that stuff more thoroughly. So it gives us some better tools now that this is actually enforceable. Does that mean November 2nd, all the problem is going to be fixed? No, it's not. But it gives us some tools to start moving forward. After explaining that process and what things look like in the future, I also want to make sure I don't set irrational expectations. I need to manage expectations of everybody because it's not all going to be fixed in a day. That neighborhood response team that I mentioned, it's a sergeant and 6 officers. And my bike team is a sergeant and 4 officers. So that means total 2 sergeants and 10 officers that can deal with these type of problems. Now, on top of that, somebody's got to go on vacation at some point. Someone's going to be tied up in training. Someone's kid's going to be sick, or we're going to be short on the street doing 911 calls. And so my team is going to be called in to go help take some 911 calls. So all that said, it's not a perfect scenario. We don't always have all the staffing we need. And so it makes it difficult. But once we can start getting a foothold in this, word is going to spread amongst the houseless community. We're also going into the winter, which is nice because they may not want to stay out every day in the cold and the rain and maybe snow. And so it gives us the opportunity to give them some ultimatums too. We show up to the camp and say, hey, you could get a citation, you could get taken to jail for this illegal camping, or we can get you a ride right now and get you into a shelter bed right now. And sometimes they're like, you know what, I think I'm kind of done with this. All my stuff's soaked and I'm ready to get off the street. And so we hope that over the course of the winter, we'll see some of that and see a reduction so that we can kind of get things under control a little bit when the great weather comes around next May, and people start trying to camp outside and we can get on it a little sooner. So that's kind of a lot about that topic. I know that that is just one of the things that a lot of people are interested in hearing about. Also, another big topic is staffing that people want to talk about. Since I've been with the Bureau 21.5 years, the highest I've ever seen our staffing is about 1,050 or so, give or take. When I got hired, Portland had 475,000 people. Anybody know what we're at now? The city didn't grow size-wise. We're locked in.
600, about 650.
Yes, 650, 675. That means we have, 50% again added to our population in the last 2 decades. And our staffing has gone way down. In fact, for the last year or two, we've been hovering around 800. And we go above and below it. We've been really struggling the last couple of years to stay above it. And we just had our largest hiring group that we've had in like 25 years. We hired 22 a couple weeks ago in one day. And that put us at like 814 or something like that. The good news is the number of people eligible for retirement, like my older brother, is tapering off, and we're continuing to hire at a high rate. We try and hire 80 to 100 a year. We have already hired 60 or 61 this year. So we got a couple more months. We're hoping to get a few more. But we are competing with all of the other local metro area law enforcement agencies for the same, for the same pool of qualified applicants. Right, so we are all fighting over them, who can get their backgrounds done fastest and offer them a job before the other, Clackamas County or somebody grabs them out from under us. So, but and then we can only hire so fast because the state will only give us so many positions in the basic academy. They were nice enough with this group of 22 that they gave us an entire academy class. So there will be an academy down in Salem that is just Portland police officers, because we need to hire so many. So I'm confident, I'll be here several more years. I'm confident that we're going to start seeing things go back up. A city of our size should have somewhere between 12 and 1,400. We are, if you go per 1,000, our numbers are so low, it's silliness compared to the rest of the country. So as we approach our maximum authorized staffing that City Council has given us, the plan is, as we get close to that, which is in the upper 800s, to then ask them for more, and then we fill up to that and ask them for more and keep going up. So hopefully, right now, despite having a polarized City Council, not everybody is police friendly, right? But recent current events have kind of gotten everybody on the same page, and they've been really supportive of law enforcement locally. Everyone's aware of all the stuff that's going on in the news about the ICE facility and the kind of the rift between the federal government and state government and city government. Well, we are very lucky right now that City Council and a lot of the community is really supporting the Portland Police Bureau. We've come a long ways as an agency in the last 5 to 10 years. Ever since the Department of Justice came in and made some mandates, and also since the riots several years ago, we have changed a ton. I have not always been able to say I love my job. My wife, this is my wife, Polly, by the way. She joined me today. She will attest to the fact that I have not always loved my job. There have been times that I have applied to other agencies. I have applied to other jobs completely out of law enforcement. And so I've gone through my share of ups and downs. And for one reason or another, I have stayed here and continued on. And I'm grateful for that, because for the last 2 or 3 years, I can honestly, genuinely say that I love my job. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy coming to work every day. I hate my alarm clock. I don't like to get up early. I fight with it every day. But once I get up and get rolling, I enjoy my job. I enjoy the people. And all of you are very lucky in this community. We have 3 precincts: North, East, and Central. I'm not going to talk bad about the others, but I will say that the morale in Central Precinct is phenomenal. Our commander is a 10. Our captain is phenomenal as well. The 2 of them allow me, those are my bosses, they allow me to do my job, to run my team. They don't micromanage. They love the community, and they want to see the best for the residents and business entrepreneurs within Central Precinct that they can. And they let me run my team, and I enjoy my job. The officers that you have working here are phenomenal. Of all of patrol, those that are going to 911 calls, when you call 911 or non-emergency, we have probably 350 or so officers that's their job, is to go do that stuff. Probably 60% of those officers have 6 years or less on the job. Most of them have 3 years or less of that 60%. So as I look on my big whiteboard, all my magnets with all my officers, and I look at their hire dates under their name, most of them are like 2022 and beyond. I've got just a few that have been here longer than that. So we got a bunch of young officers. A lot of them weren't even here during the riots. And so they don't even know that experience other than word of mouth. And they are very motivated. They want to get out and find the bad guys. We got into a bit of a rut during COVID, and then it got followed up with the riots to where any firefighters in here, retired firefighters, firefighter families, we have a healthy banter between police and fire. We like to tease each other. It's okay. But we became firefighters where we waited for the big call, went and dealt with it, and then came back to the house, you know? And so officers were kind of sitting around and just waiting for the call, go deal with it, and then come back to their parking spot that they like to sit in, and not doing hardly any proactive policing. So we got into that rut during 2020, 2021, a little bit of 22, and then we started to creep out of it around that time. Our normal staffing on Central Precinct day shift, our minimums, the bare minimum that we would like to operate with on a weekday is 17 officers and 3 sergeants. On a Saturday, Sunday, 15 officers and 3 sergeants. When I was a young officer, it was crazy if we were getting close to minimums. And heaven forbid we were below minimums. That just didn't happen. It is very, very common for us on a regular workday to be 7, 8, 9, 10 bodies below our minimum. That means for 42 square miles, I might have 7 or 8 officers. And it's not uncommon for our board, where all the calls are holding on the computer, to have 40 calls holding, waiting for someone to go take them, waiting for these 7 or 8 or 9 officers to hurry up and finish up the one they're on, to then look and see which one has the highest priority, 1 through 7, you know, they got to go grab the 1s and 2s and 3s first before they get to my car got broken into, or there's a suspicious person walking around my neighborhood, hasn't committed a crime, but it looks suspicious. Those kind of calls, unfortunately, have to wait because they're lower priority. So it was for a couple of years, people waiting around, taking those calls as they had to, and then wait for the next one. And now we've gotten to the point where, despite being short-staffed, our officers are also being very, very proactive. And they're going out and taking care of their calls, but at the same time, on their way from one to the other, they're not afraid to jump on something that needs to be addressed right now and do some patrol as they're going. And they are motivated. It's so fun. I don't get to get out. I'm kind of a house cat now, and I don't get to get outside as much as I'd like to. I'm in the office emailing Sean or whoever else too much, but I'll walk through the office and they'll have this big spread on a table of all these drugs and guns and money and weapons that they've taken off this person who's sitting in the holding cell waiting to go down to jail. And I'll be like, "What'd you guys get?" And they're like, "Oh, Lt, this is what we did." And they're so excited about it. And so it's very motivating and invigorating for me that these folks are excited to jump into this type of work, and that they're happy and that they've got good morale. Part of that is the city and the agency have done really well in the last few years in dealing with mental health and officer wellness, and making sure that we are right emotionally, mentally, physically, so that we can do our job, go home to our families, and have a well-balanced life. So very grateful to the city and the agency for helping to put so much emphasis on those topics. Oh boy, that's a lot of stuff that we've covered. Let me just check some of our notes from some of my meetings to see if there's any other big hot topics. Well, I guess I'll finish up with protest related stuff, because that's often on people's radar. And then I'm happy to open it up for questions and discussion. Central Precinct, out of all of precincts, deals with protest related stuff more than anybody else. We have protests nearly every day. Some of them are very small and don't get much attention, and others are like yesterday where they were estimating somewhere, it's a big estimation, but somewhere between 30 and 50,000 people were down there for the No Kings March yesterday. It went very smooth. There was no major problems. There was about a 2.9-mile path that they marched, but other than disrupting traffic, it was not, something dangerous. There wasn't destruction of property that I've heard about or any big arrests or anything like that. So it went very smooth. And I would say that that is the case for the majority of protest events that have taken place this year since the beginning of the year. I got promoted in January. I got promoted on a Thursday. My days off are Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And Thursday before lunch, I got promoted in the morning in a suit. Before I could get my uniform on, I got a call from my captain saying, hey, there's a protest on Saturday. I'll need you to come in on your day off and work this protest. I'm like, okay, sounds good. Thank you, sir, for the promotion. So anyway, the majority of these protests are very calm, very, they police themselves. They want to get their message out and have their event without disruption. And so a lot of the organizers are putting teams together within their group to help make sure that people are obeying the laws, because they don't want to get hijacked by a group who is going to cause destruction and violence and threats and things like that, like we saw during the riots. So a lot of the organizers are having very successful events without those things happening, which is wonderful to see. Now, the ICE facility specifically, little background, it's illegal for us as Portland Police Bureau to participate in immigration enforcement. That's not our job. We can't do that, and we cannot help immigration enforcement do that work at all. If they call for police assistance because they're in a fight or a struggle with someone, regardless of whether or not it's immigration enforcement related or not, we will come to their aid to help protect everybody and restore peace. But we won't help with immigration enforcement. So we try and push that message out a lot so that people understand that and know that. That building there in the South Waterfront is a federally leased building. It's their property. They are responsible for protection and law enforcement on their property. The streets and sidewalks outside are our responsibility. We have drastically changed the way we respond to crowd management events, and we no longer go there and just stand and hold the line in all of our riot gear. Sometimes if it's getting really violent or chaotic, we might go do that. But for the most part, we monitor. We have what we call demonstration liaison officers. They wear white polos and gray pants like this, so that they're distinctly different from the rest of the folks, rest of our officers. And they go talk to organizers. They try and de-escalate things and get some rapport going and find out what their goals are and what's the plan. And most organizers will work with them, and so that we can help them have a positive event, and they can help us understand that they're not trying to do this negative thing, and that group over there are the ones who are causing the problem, kind of thing. So most of the interactions between the federal police and the protesters that are down there come about when they're blocking their driveway. There's only one entrance and exit, and people need to come and go from there throughout the day, and they block it, and then federal police have to come out and try and push their way through the crowd and things like that. The rest of the country and the rest of the world, actually, one of our folks just got back from a trip to England, and he was enjoying time away, and he turned on the BBC, and there's Portland on their news over there. He's like, I'm trying to get away from this, they'll have to come out there and interact with the crowd to get their way out. But most people throughout the country, the news that they're seeing is not an accurate picture of what's really happening down there. There are a lot of folks that go down there. There's a few folks that like to cause trouble. For the most part, if you were to look at the crowd down there, it's keep Portland weird. They're dancing around and they're having a street party for the most part. There are some folks in the crowd that want They're there for a fight, whether it's a fight with the police, the federal police, or a fight with the counter protesters. They don't care what the topic is. They will try and hijack any protest, and just so that they can start a fight and videotape it and be all over the world and get the most views and things like that. And it comes from both sides of the coin. It's not just the, just one side or the other. It's both. So I want to paint a picture about that. We are trying to figure out what this looks like. It's very fluid, what the future of this is going to look like for PPB down in that area. We're not going to hold a perimeter around the building forever because we just don't have the resources to do that, and it's not sustainable. We can't continue to do that. Right now, we're already devoting a lot of resource to that, which is what's making my patrol team 6, 7, 8 bodies below normal, because I've got both sergeants and officers who are part of the crowd management team who have now been pulled away from my team to do that on a nightly basis. And so it just makes the rest of us short. So anyway, that's a lot. I covered a lot of topics there, and hopefully I didn't bore you to death. Everyone seems to still be awake, which is good. I appreciate that. I'm happy to answer questions, to have discussions on some more topics. We've got some time. Yes, Roger, right?
Yeah. I ride the bus every day.
Yes.
I'd give anything to have somebody on the bus to control the homeless. Most of the people on the bus when I go on it in the morning are homeless. And that causes problems. Either they're upset or not upset or moving around or whatever. It would be nice if a policeman just stepped on board,
Yeah.
looked around and said, everything's fine, and get off.
Yeah. Thank you, Roger. We talked a little bit about it out in the hall before we started. Little bit of background on this topic. Portland Police used to be responsible for transit division. And when our numbers took a nosedive back during the riots, we could no longer give the bodies and didn't have the staffing or the resources or the funds to run that division anymore. So Multnomah County took it over, and Portland completely backed out. We had folks at all rank levels up to a commander in charge of that division. And so the transit police is a team with officers and sergeants from all different agencies that are served by TriNet. So all in the Tri-County area, you've got Clackamas County and Beaverton and Hillsborough, everybody donates some bodies. So for years, probably 4 or 5 years, we didn't have anybody on the team. And those buses and trains are running right through Portland, but we could not staff them. And so just, I think at the beginning of last month, beginning of September, Chief Day made the decision to get back into transit and help out the team. So we have donated 1 sergeant and 6 officers right off the bat. One of the officers was one of my guys from day shift, who's one of our top performers, great guy. And he is on that team now. That's his job, is to deal with transit related stuff. And the hope is that shortly, as we start hiring some more folks, that we can donate another chunk of bodies to help out. Because frankly, people like Roger are dealing with this problem on a daily basis. So that is Max and bus lines, all that. So right now, what I see just from my experience is that the transit police, for the most part, does patrols on the platforms where you get on and off the bus at Max, and they will patrol in their patrol cars up and down the bus routes. I do not doubt one bit that you don't see very many officers get on the buses. I personally don't know if I've ever seen officers get on one of the buses unless the bus driver has called in some sort of a problem on that bus. The fact that we have not been enforcing illegal camping and overnight shelters also leads me to believe that a lot of people would get out of the rain and weather by jumping on a bus or jumping on the Max and just riding it throughout the day, which is difficult for everyone else out there. So yeah, so I agree that we would love to see more of them on the bus. In fact, one of my colleagues, retired Portland Police Lieutenant, who is now the lieutenant from Multnomah County in charge of transit police, he and I are close friends, just went on a motorcycle ride together a couple weeks ago. I am going to share with him your concern, and so that he's aware of it, and I want to learn more about it as to what their their marching orders are and how much time they're supposed to be spending on the buses. So thank you, Roger, and I'm gonna definitely follow up.
Thank you.
Yes, over here, sir.
So, as you interact with people who are camping on the streets, do you tend to hear a similar story over and over again about how those folks got there, or all kinds of different stories about how they?
It's a variety, but a lot of them, not everybody who's living on the street is a criminal. Okay, we gotta understand that. Some people have just gone through some really hard times, maybe did not have the family or infrastructure support, and now that is their lot in life and they ended up on the streets. Some people I've come across have come here for a job and then it fell through and they can't get another job, or at least one that will provide enough for them to get off the street. So they are going through hard times. There are a lot of that population that suffer from substance abuse, whether it's alcohol or drugs. And oftentimes, those that suffer from substance abuse will get involved in other criminal activity to support the substance abuse habits. So that's difficult to see. You know, they start out with some drugs and then they need those drugs, and now they're stealing bicycles or cars or whatever they can get their hands on to either sell it to another person or sell it at a pawn shop to get some cash to then go buy their drugs, and now they need more drugs, so it's a cycle. So we see a variety of different things. Some people, whether it was because substance abuse that got them in the situation or otherwise, now have criminal records that prevent them from being able to get good employment, which will subsidize them getting off the street and actually having a living. So we have a couple of programs in place to help with this. One is deflection. Anybody heard of deflection?
Yes.
Okay, this is a newer program that started up. There is a facility not too far from like 7th and Sandy area, inner southeast up there near the Morrison Bridge area, where if somebody is arrested for a possession of controlled substance charge, they've got drugs on them. They're not selling drugs. They're not doing other crimes at the time. They just have drugs. They have a choice. We can take them to jail, or we can take them to deflection. If they go to deflection, first of all, we call, hey, this is so-and-so. Is Johnny allowed to come to deflection? He hasn't got a bad, he didn't destroy the place last time or whatever. Yes, take him. So we take him there. We hand him off to these social workers who then talk to Johnny about all the different options he has. And he can leave deflection in a ride straight to housing. And he's off the street if he chooses to do that. Or straight to addiction recovery program. And he's in for 30 days or whatever to do that voluntarily, instead of getting another drug charge and going to jail. So that's a lot of what our full-time bicycle team is doing downtown, is they're contacting this person's got a meth pipe. It looks like they just finished using meth or whatever. Hey, let me talk to you. You can either go to jail or you can go to deflection. Okay, I'll go to deflection. Are they going to accept the help on the first try? Probably not. The 10th try, I don't know. But hopefully, as they keep going to deflection, they will finally get into that program that'll stick, and they'll get off the streets. So that's one program. Right now, you can only get into deflection if a police officer takes you there. But they're trying to change the program a little bit to where, like, Portland Street Response, who are some folks that a position was created to take some of the pressure off of police for mental health and drug related matters on the street that we don't necessarily need to be dealing with all the time. We're hoping to get to where they can take them to deflection too, and so there's more avenues into the facility. It's also a sobering facility, so if someone is just intoxicated and causing trouble or just wandering the street, we can take them there and they too can sober up and receive some resources. The other program is the mayor has given a huge chunk of money to one of our partners to help get people home when Portland's not your home. Other agencies around the country, we have proof that they have been giving folks tickets of, here's your bus ticket. Portland's a great place. They have so many resources. Go there. And so we have received a lot of people from all over the country that get here and then sometimes don't have a way to get back. And so our officers can contact somebody. How did you get here? What are you doing here? Where's home? Oh, I grew up in the Midwest, or I grew up in Florida, or whatever. Okay, do you have family there? Yeah. Do you like to go back there? Yeah. We have gotten people on flights within 2 hours. On a flight, sending them home. Or on a train, yes, one way, absolutely. Or putting them on the bus or putting them on a train and getting them out of there. So my officers have been on scene with Johnny, who's been causing some trouble and living on the street, and they have waited for the Uber to pick them up and take them to the airport, and they've got a ticket waiting for them to go. So we have that program, which has been very helpful because we've sent probably hundreds of people home in the last, since the beginning of the summer.
Wow.
So yes,
What is the status or legal issue you deal with if you see children underage living in some of the housing, the tents? I've seen 2 cases of that near 82nd, where I sometimes.
young children, or are you
Young
talking
children.
like teenagers living on
Young
the street?
children.
Yeah.
How is that handled
Yeah.
legally, and how do the police handle that issue?
Yeah.
I get very concerned, of course.
Absolutely, yes, and that type of thing piques our interest also when we see those calls pop up. You know, people will call and say, I see this person in a tent and they've got a toddler with them in the tent. So the needs of the children have to be met. There's certain needs. And so when we get that type of situation, anytime there is a welfare check on a child call, we have to write a police report and document what we saw, what we went through, and we have to contact the child abuse hotline or Department of Human Services and refer it to them also and give them the information. And so they will then follow up with it. If we get there, the child's clean, the child is fed, and they're just, living in this clean tent or whatever, we're probably going to stay on scene and try and get some resources to come get them off the street right away. If there's no resources and no one can come or whatever, and everything seems okay, and it's noon and it's a sunny day and they're hanging out there, okay, we're gonna leave them. We're gonna get their good contact information, and somebody from DHS or welfare or whoever is gonna check in with them right away and make sure it's addressed. We don't want to see that at all. It's a little bit different situation. Similar if we see 17, 16-year-old kids who have run away from home. We got lots of runaways, and they become part of this community on the streets. And they are part of this. That's what they want. They want to live on the streets and feel this sense of community with these certain people. We used to see this a lot more, 5 to 10 years ago. And, it was the street kids. It was kids that would adapt to this community. They all have their different nicknames, and it is this is my dad. It's their street dad or their street mom, the older person who was taking care of these, And so in that situation, we're doing similar things. We're checking to see if they're listed as a runaway and how to get them back home or into a shelter. And then we're making notifications to DHS and writing police reports.
Thank you. That's very reassuring.
Yeah, I think I saw your hand. So.
You said that people are sending people to Portland, this is a great
Yeah.
city to live. But you know what? A whole lot of cities say the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, people sent them to our city.
Yeah.
And I don't know how true all that is. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
I think there's
almost
some
like an
truth
urban
to all
myth.
of it. I think there's some truth to all of it. I've heard of a lot of folks coming to Portland from Southern California.
Mhm.
So we get that quite a bit.
Yeah.
And for, most of the year up here, they don't have to deal with the extreme heat, and they usually don't have to deal with extreme cold other than a few weeks here and there.
Mm.
But they got the rain, and so, they come up here with their tents and they'll
Yeah.
just stay. And they know that when they get up here, we're not as tough on open air camping as other cities are. Other cities, you go to some other cities and you don't see that at all. And so they're much more strict on it, and they'll send people on their way. So so we're trying to get people home and away from here. We're not trying to make it somebody else's problem necessarily, but if they can show that that's where I'm from, I've got family there,
Yeah.
my mom is still there or whatever, we will say, okay, we'll send you there. Yes.
I wonder if there could be a major improvement if we had more involuntary commitment. I recently quit a job after 24 years of working at some treatment facilities for people who were stepping down from the hospital. They would only be with us 2 or 3 months for stabilization and then going back to the community. And many of these people are absolute walking train wrecks, psychiatrically and physically. So to be on complex medication regimes for their mental health, which is only partially relieved, and insulin and many other medicines. So these are train wrecks, and they will never be responsible for their own health unless they've got a nurse or a person there saying it's time to take your meds and you will do this right now, and they're completely unable to support themselves in the community. And yet we know that they're going to end up back on the street, and you're going to take them to the hospital for all this treatment. And Damish, I'm old and I remember Damish, and it did a good job. I mean, it took those people and actually gave them treatment and gave them a community. They had their morning get together. They had a bed, they had 3 hots and a cot. And it seems to me that all that has disappeared, and we desperately need it for a lot of people, or some people.
I
What are
agree.
your thoughts about
Yeah.
that? Psychiatrists, I've talked to psychiatrists and they say it's very hard to do a involuntary commitment.
Yes, it is. It's very hard. It's something that I've dealt with my entire career. We can do a police officer hold. If we believe somebody is a danger to themselves or others, we can take them into custody to get a mental health evaluation at the hospital. Once we turn them over to the hospital, we have no more say in what happens. It's up to the hospital staff. Not sure what all the training is of who's going to do that mental health evaluation, but I'm sure they've got some social workers in there, and they have to be able to determine it to hold the person. But oftentimes they get released back right out into the community.
Yep.
And I agree that that is another huge part of that community that I didn't touch on before, is the mental health. That's a huge part. Whether it's substance-induced mental health, traumatic brain injury mental health, or just developmental disabilities of one kind or another, there is a huge population of the houseless community that suffers from mental health crisis. We have officers that are highly trained as enhanced crisis intervention team members, and certain types of calls mandate by our policy that an ECIT officer, enhanced community safe, or a crisis intervention team officer, gets sent to that call as well. They are well versed in helping people with mental health disabilities. And then we also have our behavioral health unit, who is an officer in a car with a clinician, a certified clinician. They are partners. They work together, the two of them, same person every day. And they've, in some cases, been working together, the two of them, for years. And we have, I think, 5 or 6 of those teams now. And they mostly work during the daytime hours and stuff, but they also do follow-up. When we've dealt with somebody, got a call on somebody for mental health related things, we went and did the initial check. They're home, they're safe right now. BHU, Behavioral Health Unit, will come later, do follow-up checks with them and work with other social work groups to see if that person needs to be physically committed. But it is a difficult process. It isn't as easy as it used to be in the 90s or whatever to get somebody physically committed to Damish or one of the other state hospitals. And it's much more difficult. And so, yeah, I agree. It's a bad problem.
Is anybody working on it?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I mean, from in the last number of years, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the community and the city government are understanding that all these things that were tossed on police officers are not police problems.
That's right.
We should not be the ones responding to this person who's just wandering down the street screaming his head off, not causing any, not running in traffic, no weapons in their hand, just walking down the street screaming to themselves or at an imaginary person. Is that a police call? They're not hurting anybody. They're not causing any trouble other than a noise disturbance. That isn't something we should go try and potentially use force on that individual to take them into custody to do what? They're not a danger to themselves or anybody else. So we can't even take them into custody. So yes, people are realizing that those are not police problems, and we need to get county health department and people that are involved in social work involved to make sure that that person's needs are being met. So yes, there are a lot of people behind the scenes working on that problem, working on legislation and making changes to the law so that people can get the help that they really need.
Would you hazard a guess as to the percentage of the homeless problem is connected to mental health issues?
I guess you would have to first define what mental health problems are and whether or not they're, substance induced.
Where an officer has shown up and they have come to think there's some other issues here that have to do with the mental health of the folks involved.
Our numbers are skewed, I'll tell you that, because every call we go to, we have to answer a yes, no question on the computer. Was mental health involved in this call? One question. And oftentimes it gets answered no, because, there wasn't something blatantly obvious. But, if you dug down to it and sat down and had a longer conversation, there's probably something there. And then sometimes it's, well, they're high right now. So are they mentally unstable, or are they mentally unstable because they're high on drugs? And so our numbers are really low, lower than what it actually is. I would say, this is just Ty here, okay? Don't quote me on it, but I would say that probably 50 to 75% of the people that are living on the streets have some sort of a mental health component. Whether it's mental health specifically or substance abuse or inflicted mental health, for the substances, might be both. So, but yeah, yes, ma'am.
There's been a long history of these things, efforts made in Portland to deal with the problems here. Do you have any data on how effective it is at this point? Things that are happening, they're being used different methods.
I do know that our numbers are up and down in Central Precinct in the right direction. So it's our commander, that's part of his big job, is he, going to community meetings, digging into the weeds of the statistics and things like that. But our drug arrests are way, way, way up. And people would think, oh, that means there's more of a drug problem. No, it's because drugs were made legal for a little while. So we weren't arresting anybody for drugs. And now they're illegal again. So now we're arresting, and now the numbers are through the roof. And but when you look at like car prowls or thefts or burglaries or things like that, those types of numbers are down in the right direction. So I believe that in the years since COVID and since the reclassification of illegal drugs, that our numbers are going in the right direction. Part of that, despite having low staffing, is because of the positive morale and the hard work of our officers that are out there in the street. They do this job day in and day out and deal with, who in here has ever had a job that they really didn't like going to, right? How many people in here have had a job that was a terrible job, the work was terrible, but you worked around good people and it made going to work fun?
Yes.
Okay, right? Huge portion of job satisfaction is who you work around, who you work for. You can do a terrible job. My little brother, for a couple of years, he was the homeless car. Him and his partner, that's all they did all day long, was go deal with illegal camps and drugs and cleanups and sewage around these camps and just nastiness. And I'm like, Timmy, how do you do this? He's like, I get to work with Ryan. And they have fun. So they're working together all the time. They enjoy it. And so we have some officers that the morale is high, they're working hard, it's contributing to good things. Yep.
Just a smart personal question about this, but our daughter lives in a neighborhood where there are young paraphernalia on the street, have a 3-year-old daughter. And she works in the block or two from where they live. They live right off Stark and 45th. 47, somewhere there. And what to do? How do they, as people living in that community, deal with that?
Two things. One, if there's an illegal camp and it needs to be cleaned up, you can get on the city's website, you can report the camp, they'll come out, they'll post it 72 hours, and they'll clean it up. If it's a little onesie twosies, you got this pipe is laying over here, we're finding syringes in the bushes, things like that. They're not necessarily gonna come out and clean that stuff up. And I know that we don't want to pick up all that stuff, but recently we had a staff meeting where we invited a local entrepreneur who came. He created his own company called Adopt One Block. And it has exploded all over the country. And you can go to adoptoneblock.org and you can adopt your block. And what it does, there's a map on there that you can see all the areas and all the blocks that have already been adopted. And when I pulled it up for Portland, I was blown away that many blocks have already been adopted. And when you register and adopt your block, they start sending you the cleaning equipment, the garbage bags, the little picker upper so you don't have to touch stuff. They send you everything you need so that you can just on your daily walking around the block, you can pick up the trash, the garbage, the syringes, whatever, and get rid of that stuff. So yeah, it kind of puts it on you, but you're taking ownership of where you live. You're helping to make your community a little bit better. You're not have to wait 72 hours for someone else to come clean up this little pile of stuff. And you're given some tools to do it safely.
If they have people who live right, they show up in front of their apartment door
Mm-hmm.
and they have to go out and say, get out of here, not here.
Yeah.
And they live probably close by with me.
Yeah.
Wonder about it. I've seen them out there doing drugs,
Yeah.
smoking something. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I just wonder if but that sounds like a good person.
So also on the city's website is a place to report illegal drug activity. And you don't need to call 911 unless it's a life-threatening emergency or some major crime happening right now. If it's something that needs an officer's presence, you can call 911 number if it's not life-threatening. But if it's just you're reporting drugs, or I think they're doing drugs out here on the corner on a regular basis kind of a thing, go to the city's website and add that into there. And then that helps us narrow our focus with our limited resources of, oh, we're getting a ton of complaints about these 3 blocks right here. Let's take the bike team and go over there and hit that area pretty hard.
What's the name of that website again about the?
Adoptoneblock.org. Adopt One Block. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say thank you for coming in and being with us on your day off. And to share with you that we had No Kings demonstration right down the block here.
Oh.
At Woodstock, and I saw no police at all, and I just report, we had a wonderful time.
Good. We've actually, thank you very much for that. We've actually gotten some of our protest organizers in the past have not liked us at all, have actually come about and told us thank you on numerous occasions recently in light of the threat of, military coming in. They're like, we really like you guys. Thank you for doing your job. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I don't want to be off subject, but this is a lot. Last year and the year before, my brother-in-law went to some gatherings and he got shot. He's a tall guy and he sticks out in the crowd. And he got shot at one in the leg once and then in the back of the calf once. And I noticed
with a bullet or with
with a rubber bullet.
Ah, yes.
Rubber bullet.
Okay.
And it left a
sure.
big dent.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw 2 ladies on TV that also got hit rubber bullets. Has there been any discussion of no kings, but no rubber bullets on people?
Sure.
Rubber bullets on people leave some bad damage.
So a little bit of a difference between the way we respond
Yeah.
to protest events and the way the federal team
Oh,
responds.
that's good.
So we do not use any rubber bullets. We don't have them. We have some that are like Nerf, but we use those in very, very rare circumstances. It's a big deal for us to launch any of those. If we launch gas, it's usually in a canister that goes into the area and disperses. It doesn't hit somebody.
Okay.
The federal side of the house, though, they will launch pepper balls, which are little balls like a paintball out of a paintball gun, and they launch those and they'll hit people and they'll puff. The gas will come out. Yeah. Yeah, and so they are much more likely to use those than any of us. So yeah, that is a tactic that
Yeah, I
have
still
to-
wouldn't do that.
Yeah, that sounds like it hurts.
Sides.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
want to respect our time and our guests. We're beyond the hour, and we just want to thank you so much for coming in. Pleasant to get to know you, and I hope that this is the first time that we see you. So,
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the good questions and everything. Sean has my contact information. I'm happy to answer questions later. If we didn't get to you today and you had something, I can respond to an email later. So thank you all very much. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
It's so.
Yeah.